here's your content warning. If you are listening to this and there are children around, if you are listening to this and there is anyone with ears around, if you are listening to this and there is anyone who has a shred of class or decency around, turn off this podcast. Welcome to This Is Jen, episode 42. This is the new and improved edition. About a month ago, we took this podcast to video. You can look it up on YouTube, and I think I'm actually coming up in search now. It's just too fancy. So if you search for Jen Fulwiler, I know you can't spell Fulwiler. I don't know. Take your best guess. This is Jen. I don't know where it'll come up. Find it on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to the channel because I put other fun things on the channel as well. So subscribe to that. And we have Shady Ray with us, the producer extraordinaire. And also the other big thing that is new and improved about the podcast is that I now do bonus episodes on Patreon. And if you missed the announcement last week, that is now weekly. I used to do bonus episodes twice a month, but I got such a tremendous response and I am having so much fun with that community. To be honest, in my whole career, starting Patreon is top favorite thing I've ever done. So we have bonus episodes there. I go a little more intimate on the Patreon. For example, the episode that is out this week is about my history with alcohol. As someone who has a flask, another thing you can see on YouTube, a flask sitting on the desk in front of the Hail Mary mug. You can imagine that I've had a complicated relationship with this substance. So my story of how it got a little bit out of control for a while, how it got back under control, all of that, that's the kind of thing I talk about on Patreon. That is what is out this week. And you can subscribe there, get all that great bonus content at patreon.com/thisisjen. Now, I'm going to try a new segment here that I actually got from someone on Twitter, referred to what I do on this podcast as Gensplaining. Isn't that a great term? Like instead of mansplaining, it's Gensplaining. And a couple other people jumped in on it and said that's essentially what you do here. Is like you kind of make the world make sense to us through your absolutely crazy lens. You know, growing up atheist, being Catholic now, being a parent of 6 kids, like just that the very different lens I have on the world. So they were saying that is Gensplaining. So I'm going to try this segment where I go over some things in the news that have caught my attention. And it's never like the most important stuff. It's always like just the absolute nonsense that catches my attention. And I will make I'll make the whole world make sense to you. And that we're going to call that Gensplaining. Now, back when I was at SiriusXM, had a paycheck and health insurance and that. I know, who wants it, right? Who even wants that? Back when I was at SiriusXM, we would have what you call imaging for that, and that's where an announcer would come on and be like, "And now it's time for Gensplaining," and we're not there yet with the old podcast, but so I figure like we can improvise our own sound effects here. Look, so I found in our garage, I found cowbells. Yeah. So I think if you Shady, what is the thing you call it? The bebop,
a scat.
Yeah, and I always think that's defecation, but it's not. No. It's music. Well, like, yeah, I think you could do both. You can do both. Hey. So we have the cowbells. So why don't you scat? I'll do the cowbells and then I'll announce this segment. Okay. This is the level of professionalism of this podcast. It knows no bounds. There's no end to it. Okay, here we go. 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, wait, I don't want it to be too loud. All right, here. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know how to ring a cowbell is what we're learning. Why would you hit it if there's a little ball inside it?
I don't know. You shake it, I guess.
Okay. Maybe I'll just do one. It's, the cowbell's a bit much. You can never have too much cowbell, right?
Tap the one to the other
Okay, all right. Well, no, that's not how you're supposed to do it either. Okay, clearly no one in this room knows the proper use of a cowbell. Okay. Scat. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for Gensplaining. That was a disaster. That was, okay, I've got to like hire someone to do imaging so that we never bring out the cowbell again. An absolute disaster.
Cowbell solo.
Now, so I will be talking about things in the news that catch my attention. And the particular topics that have caught my attention this week, one in particular, I want to give you a content warning. Now, I try to keep this podcast at a PG level in terms of language, in terms of generally the things we talk about. I try. I don't always succeed, but I try. Because I know that so many of the people who follow this podcast have kids who are running around in the background. Maybe you're listening to it in the car. So I think it's helpful to you guys to keep it pretty general audience. Today is not that day. Here's your content warning. If you are listening to this and there are children around, if you are listening to this and there is anyone with ears around, if you are listening to this and there is anyone who has a shred of class or decency around, turn off this podcast and don't complain to me later if you didn't turn it off. And then you hear what I'm going to talk about. And don't DM me. Don't send me emails like, Jen, really, did you really? I warned you. And so for people who skip ahead, if anyone is skipping this part and they land 2 minutes from now, they're going to regret that. This will be a lesson to everyone. Don't skip this podcast because I might give you a very grave warning and you might miss it. And then you got your kids in the car it's going to be bad. So you know what? Hallie Lord has a new podcast and it is called Beatbox Gospel and it is relatable. It is funny, and it is nothing like the nonsense that you are about to be exposed to on this program. So for our first ever edition of Gensplaining, where, again, I take a look at the world and I explain it back to you through my very unique lens on life. How does one even lead into this? Did you guys hear that a CNN correspondent who is a writer for the New York, not the Post, what's the classy one? The one that has the jokes that the New Yorker. The New Yorker magazine, very high class. That's the one where they'll do like cartoon jokes where it's a guy walking into an office and another guy is holding an apple and they're like, the Dow Jones is up this week. And everyone acts like they know what that means, but no one actually understands it. But you have to pretend like you understand the New Yorker's humor so that everyone knows that you're just a galaxy brain who's so educated because you went to so many Ivy League schools that you understand these jokes. Do you know that thing with the New Yorker? Mm-mm. Okay, so that's the thing. Everyone pretends to understand their jokes. So it makes what I'm about to say even more delightful. I mean, this kind of thing, it's just what makes life worth living. And that's the wrongest thing to say as a Catholic. And that's why I always say lifelong atheist to Catholic convert, so that when you guys are like, Jen is the worst Catholic, maybe you'll start grading on the curve. If you remember, you're like, well, she was raised atheist. This is probably the best she can do. So it makes the story even more wonderful to know, if you know that the New Yorker has a history of being this like super high class, fancy publication. Okay, so this guy, Jeffrey, Toobin. Are you familiar with his work?
No.
So you're about to be.
Oh, no.
Okay, so he is a correspondent on CNN, somehow affiliated with the super high class New Yorker. And he's been doing all of this stuff about the Supreme Court hearings. And he's one of the guys, on CNN, like back, before I started this nonsense. I used to get booked on CNN. No more. Yeah, they got rid of that nonsense. But, he's one of these people like, yes, I believe that we need to look at the constitutional, that kind of guy.
What did he do?
The New Yorker had a staff Zoom call, and it looks like I'm taking so much pleasure in this, and really that's because I am. The New Yorker had a Zoom call, and I told PG-13 warning, I told you guys, he whipped it out. And I don't mean his legal pad. I don't mean a law book. Like, whipped it out on the New Yorker Zoom call, a CNN analyst.
Buddy.
Yeah, right. So you didn't hear about this.
No.
So okay.
Oh, no.
How do you not hear? Okay, you're following different people on Twitter than I am. Clearly,
I'm not on Twitter.
That's why. This is those of us everyone on Twitter is like, yes, Jen, yes, we're aware of the story. We tried to ignore it. Okay, now this is a counterpoint situation where you are probably thinking, point, Jen, you cannot talk about a guy pleasuring himself on a Zoom call for 30 minutes. Now, he didn't pleasure himself for 30 minutes. I'm going to talk about it for 30 minutes.
That's a whole other question.
Counterpoint. I can and I will, because look, everyone's like closing their browser. My YouTube watch time is it will be like at this minute, I lost them all. And the podcast stats are going to be like, yeah, everyone, like Apple will show me a special stat where it's like they all set their phones on fire at this point in the podcast. Counterpoint. Yes, I can and I will, because this gets to the heart of everything that is wrong with Western civilization. And those of you who listened to my radio show on Sirius XM, and this kind of take is exactly what my bosses are probably like, thank God she quit, like this, because this was a lot to hear on our otherwise classy station. The reason I'm always talking about this sort of thing is because it gets to the heart of the modern Western secular ethic. Nay, the modern Western mind, this sort of post-Christian, post-Judeo-Christian sort of ethics, especially when it comes to sexuality. And I'm not saying that everyone in Western civilization is like, yeah, whip it out on a Zoom call. You'll hear, this is a very intelligent and nuanced take that I have here. But this kind of thing does bring us to the very heart of the modern mindset and everything that is wrong with it, which is why I talk about stuff like this all the time. Like one time I had one of my bosses at SiriusXM was like, okay, so you did a whole segment on a nudist restaurant in France. And I defended, I was like, was it not a great segment? Was it not so interesting? And they ended up backing down. They were like, actually, it was pretty funny and you made some good points. So, nudist restaurants, people whipping it out on Zoom calls. That is my wheelhouse, actually. That is my specialty as a commentator. Unsubscribe accordingly. So, all right. So this is just this week. So he's on this Zoom call. Now, here is his response.
Please.
Now, Shady, let's play armchair PR expert. So the Shady and Jen PR firm is now in existence.
Indeed.
And Jeffrey Toobin has come to us. And that sounds like that could be a verb, right? Yeah, I'm tubing it. I'm sorry. Okay, enough.
You're gonna kill
There's
me.
at SiriusXM, we had a dump button where my producer could like delete 6 seconds of what I said. But we don't have that on here.
Meh.
Okay, so he was tubing it. Okay, I'll stop. But I won't. Listen to his statement and see if the Shady and Jen SNJ public relations firm, if we feel like this was a good response. He says, I made an embarrassingly stupid mistake. No. No. I made an embarrassingly stupid mistake believing I was off camera. I apologize to, blah, blah, blah. I apologize to my wife. By the way, he had an affair for like many years. So he has a lot of apologizing to be. I mean, if I were his wife, I'd be like, what? Yeah, this is like
new.
the least. I just assumed that. Tell me when you're not whipping it out on a Zoom call. Anyway. So he says, let me get his statement back up. I apologize to my wife, family, friends, and coworkers. SJPR, what do we think about this? He says, I believed I was not visible on Zoom. He thought he turned off his video. I thought no one on the Zoom call could see me. I thought I had muted Zoom video. That's his response. Oh, what now? S&J, as the senior co-founder of S&JPR, what do you think of that statement?
I don't understand how that happens. I don't get it.
Okay, look, then let me jump in with this. That's the wrong take. And if I have any listeners, and I might actually, some of you guys, I might have some listeners who will end up in this situation at some point. You think that I have a bunch of good family values people here, and I do, but there's a little bit of the Venn diagram of people who would do this on a Zoom call when they think their video's off, and my fans, there is a little bit of overlap there. So let me give you my little PR take on this. That's the one thing you cannot say. You can't be like, well, I didn't know anyone could see me. No, look. So I went over this with my husband, Joe, and he was like, well, what are you going to say? Like, what could you possibly say other than that? And I was like, look, in a situation like this, you have to double down. There's no choice. You have to be like, yeah, you guys like this? Like, yeah, I wanted everyone to see it.
I thought it was a group meeting like that.
And I wish, yes, thank you. You get it. Now, my husband, he's a Yale man. He's a classy man. Aww. And his response, he was like, don't say that on your podcast. That's a crazy take. That's a crazy thing to say. And he said, I know you, and I know you're going to cover this on your podcast. Don't say that he should have been like, yeah, that, definitely do not put that out there. So nobody tell Joe that I said that. That's my honest take. Right, because that is the zipping of her mouth. Now, because this, that zip could have meant a lot of things with this topic. Yeah, Shady's like, this is a great idea.
While I'm off camera.
By the way, audio listeners, so I told YouTube that this is a clean podcast. This video literally might get deleted. So search for Fullweiler, the episode number, it's 42, and watch it on YouTube quickly because I honestly think this might get deleted. Okay, so here's it, or you know what he could have done. So what you need to do is take the mores of the culture that you find yourself in and lean into them and follow them to all of their logical conclusions and see if you can play within that framework. So if I were his PR firm, I might have told him to be like, so this was supposed to be an announcement that I'm trans. And so I whipped it out and I was just about to be like, I don't even want this anymore.
Need it.
Yeah, I hate this. But you guys interrupted me. I was coming out. Like, see, that's what you got to do. You cannot be like, I had no idea that people could see me pleasuring myself on the Zoom call. That is the one take that you can't
You're like,
have.
y'all weren't? Like,
right.
What?
I thought everyone was going to join in. You can't tell people that you didn't know the video was on. It's the worst take. And this is the moment where people who skipped my content warning are like, they're throwing their phones out the window and they are going to live in a monastery from here on out. They're like secluding from society. Here's why I bring this up. because this teases out so many of the values, the sexual values that Western culture holds dear. Jeffrey Toobin is a victim. He's a victim of the modern secular sexual ethic. And I sincerely love to talk about this because people don't realize how crazy things get when we throw traditional Judeo-Christian values out the window. And I want to be clear, I am not an idealist when it comes to the old school, when back in the day when this country had Judeo-Christian values. Look, it was a hot mess. I mean, when people romanticize boomers or like the 1950s, that's when we all had values. Yeah, you also had water fountains that had the word coloreds over it. So you guys didn't have it all figured out. It didn't solve everything. I am not idealizing the past. However, we want to not throw the baby out with the bathwater here when we are getting rid of the bad things of the past. And a lot of the Judeo-Christian, traditional Christian ideals about sexual morality, we do not understand the chaos that it invites into our lives when we just throw that out the window. So as a Catholic, everyone makes fun of our worldview. They make fun of the Catholic view of sexuality because Catholics aren't into what's a nice delicate word I could use for this? Self gratification. Is that, because we're like, don't do something else with your time is what the Pope says. He's like, don't you have something better to do with your time than to sit around and what's a delicate term for this? There's so many things I could say. To sit around and do that on your work Zoom call. That's what the Pope says. And you know what? C.S. Lewis has a beautiful quote that I happen to have handy because I think it's so interesting. This is from C.S. Lewis. He wrote the Narnia series, but that people don't know. So you know Narnia, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know this guy. It was not just all talking lions and witches. This guy had some really interesting things to say. He was in the trenches of World War I. I mean, he saw some real fighting. He was an atheist who became Christian, and he was so close to becoming Catholic. We kind of claim him as one of our own. He was Catholic light, like Anglican or something, but honorary Catholic here. So you need to read everything. If you ever struggle with your faith, if you're tempted toward atheism, man, you need to just read everything that C.S. Lewis ever wrote. Such an interesting guy. Love my fellow atheist to Christian converts. Okay, Christianity has traditionally taught, and all Christian denominations taught this up until recently. And now, these mega churches are like, hey, whatever, if like maybe God wants you to do that on the Zoom call. Like all Christian denominations did not used to be like this. And the Catholic Church is the only one that's still talking about this. So we get made fun of it as Catholics because we're like, maybe don't. Like maybe find something else to do with your time. And here's why. And everyone's like, that's because Catholics are prudes. That's because they're no fun. And it's like, really? This is your idea of fun? Like, do you know what... Anyway, so that's your idea of it. We're out like having parties and doing feast days and doing interesting things. And everyone's like, but we want to sit alone in our rooms. Okay, so C.S. Lewis, this is such an interesting quote. So he goes into that, like, because someone in his day was like, but why not? Why not? It's fun, why be a prude? C.S. Lewis says, for me, the real evil of masturbation would be that it takes an appetite which, in lawful use, leads the individual out of himself to complete and correct his own personality in that of another, and perhaps produce children, even grandchildren. And then self-pleasuring turns it back. It sends the man back into the prison of himself, there to keep a harem of imaginary brides. Find a more powerful quote than that. Isn't that unbelievable? But see, that quote, the prison of self, that self-gratification, like just fantasizing or pulling up some nasty thing on the internet or being like, this Zoom call is amazing. This New Yorker Zoom call is hot. Like this, I mean, just talking about the editorial calendar. And let's face it. I mean, I don't know who was on the Zoom call, but I don't think of the New Yorker as just being like, you know, but like they all have OnlyFans on the sides. Like that's not what I think of as the New Yorker staff looking like. But evidently I'm wrong because people get on their Zoom calls and are like, woo, I can't, let's light it up. Like I cannot control myself. This is amazing. Because and I meant to say that earlier because I think that's like I've been on some Zoom meetings. Like my publisher, we had Zoom meetings. And, there was never one that I was like, this is the marketing calendar. It's going to have to.
You're busy on the night.
Yeah, I'm going to have to turn off my video and everyone knows what that means now. I want to read that last line again because it's tremendous. C.S. Lewis. So self-gratification sends the man back into the prison of himself. This brings us to another one of my favorite quotes. Thomas Merton, the guy, he was an atheist or at least agnostic, Ivy League guy, went to Columbia, had this very high-flying New York life. He became a monk and wrote all this stuff, another really interesting guy. And Thomas Merton said, to consider events and persons only in light of myself is to live at the doorstep of hell. This is one of the things as an atheist that I thought was very interesting about Christian teaching, that it basically says, look, y'all think that what you want is to sit around and think about yourself and your personal pleasure, and that is what is going to lead you to fulfillment and happiness. But guess what? That will lead you to hell. Hell, like a hellish experience, and perhaps literal eternal hell if you take it too far. And I thought that was very interesting, that the meaning of life and the only thing that is going to make us happy is to come out of ourselves, to give of ourselves to other people. And that starts with sexuality. And I think it's so interesting that we have this secular culture today that says, oh yeah, just grab your junk and go to town. Go crazy.
Man.
It's going to be taken off of YouTube so quickly. We have the secular culture that says, go to town, do your thing. But then they're like, but serve other people. But do you serve the care about others? Hey, why are you guys so unsympathetic? Why don't you care about anyone but yourself? Well, because we know what you're doing in the evening. You're sitting there objectifying other human beings, looking at these really objectifying pictures of them. And then just, again, as C.S. Lewis says, crafting this prison of yourself where you're in this imaginary harem with all of these people who in your imagination exist only to serve you. And then we're like, why is everyone so selfish in modern culture? Like, we can't figure it out. A lot of what forms our view of the world starts with sexuality. As it goes in the bedroom, it goes in the rest of your life. Christianity understands that. Nobody else understands that. And so what I'm saying to you atheists, what I'm saying to atheist YouTube, atheist Reddit, all the atheists I used to beef with atheists. Yes, I used to beef with the atheists all the time. The world that you guys want to see with your secular sexual values, it's all masturbating on Zoom calls all the time. The world that you are leading us to, it'll be like, imagine the Zoom squares and like everyone.
No one's on.
Everyone has it out. Everyone on the Zoom call has, that this is the world you want, atheists. This is the world you want. Oh, we're going to get rid of Judeo-Christian values. Fine. But then you're just going to have to like gouge out your eyes every time you're on a Zoom meeting. This is the world that you are leading us to. And I would have agreed with that when I was an atheist. My father, God rest his soul, atheist, he was the big influence on my lack of beliefs, religious beliefs when I was a kid. We really bonded on the atheistic worldview. But he always said, be intellectually honest. Don't just be tribal about it. Like everything every atheist says is right and true, and there's nothing problematic about this worldview. Be honest about it. And so I would have said, even as an atheist, I would have been like, yeah, where our view of the world, it is all going to be masturbating Zoom calls. Like we really are headed for that. Let me read a bit more from C.S. Lewis. So the only person who is left listening to this or watching this is like there might be some sort of prison program where, you know, where you can't do a lot of the old punishments for prisoners anymore. So I think it's probably like you have to watch Jen Fulwiler's podcast as, you know, you stabbed another inmate. So that's probably the last person left who is watching this. C.S. Lewis continues, because the harem, this imaginary harem of people who are self-pleasuring all the time, like on New Yorker Zoom calls, the harem is always accessible, always subservient, calls for no sacrifices or adjustments, and can be endowed with erotic and psychological attractions which no woman can rival. Among those shadowy brides, he is always adored, always the perfect lover. No demand is made on his unselfishness. When masturbating guy lives in fantasy world. And that's not Lewis, that's I'm ad-libbing. When you're gratifying yourself on the New Yorker Zoom call, no demand is made of your unselfishness, no mortification ever imposed on your vanity. C.S. Lewis continues, in the end, women become merely the medium through which he increasingly adores himself. Tell me that's not a galaxy brain moment.
That's crazy.
And we've all known people who are really into that world. Like they go to the strip clubs and they're into being players and then they go home and they look at porn.
Ugh.
Is that not a description of that guy?
Seriously.
Among these shadowy imaginary brides, he is always adored, always the perfect lover. And in the end, they, the imaginary women, become merely the medium through which he increasingly adores himself. Wow.
That's crazy.
Mic drop. Yeah. And Lewis lived in the 1940s, so dropping that mic is like 10 pounds. You know, that's a significant mic drop. And then he goes on. I mean, he's not done. C.S. Lewis is not done blowing your mind. After all, almost the main work of life is to come out of ourselves, out of the little dark prison we are born in. Masturbation is to be avoided as all things are to be avoided, which retard this process. The danger is that we will come to love this prison. That's the whole message of Christianity. Everyone makes fun of our values, but it's this mind-blowing galaxy brain message. This is what Jesus was talking about. He's like, listen, I'm paraphrasing Jesus now. And now we're really going off the rails. He's like, look, you guys are sitting around in a prison, but you don't realize you're in a prison because it's all, you've crafted this little world where it's all about you and you have all these imaginary things going on and you're getting these dopamine hits of physical pleasure and of mental pleasure and the things you're imagining. You are in a prison and you don't even know it because you've come to love it. But there's another way. And if you follow this way, you won't end up whipping it out on a Zoom call when you think you've turned your video off. So come follow me. Walk in the truth. And the light. It drives me insane that especially with, Catholics are in the news again with the Supreme Court hearings. Everyone's making fun of Amy Coney Barrett's worldview because she's Catholic. And it's like, okay, make fun of us all day long. Who's doing that on Zoom calls? Well, probably some Catholics, but we know we shouldn't. Not we. I haven't done that. I'm just saying. I'm not saying Catholics are perfect, but at least we have the worldview that's like, don't be in a prison of self. Don't do that at all. Let alone when you're trying to talk to the New Yorker. People are replacing New Yorker cartoons. Again, there's a running joke that no one ever understands New Yorker cartoons. So they're sketched out with some random image. And then there's the text, Jeffrey Toobin, blank, blank, on a Zoom call. And they just put that text on the New Yorker.
Goodness.
I don't approve of that. I only spent like 2 hours looking through those. But this is where we are as a culture. So I hope everyone's happy that we live in a post-Christian culture, because now what we're left with is, you know how your grandparents had folksy wisdom that they would pass on to you.
yeah.
You know, like my grandfather would be like, well, in my day, we poured kerosene on a wound and we put a little bacon fat on it, would fix it right up. Or grandma would say, always dress your best. You never know when you might meet someone who could give you an opportunity. You know, that kind of
Yeah.
folksy wisdom. Like, oh, you know, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Here's what we are going to pass on to our grandchildren. Well, as a person who grew up in post-Christian secular culture, lived through 2020, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, gather round
on,
for grandma's wisdom. A little bit of folksy wisdom here. Kids, if you're going to whip it out, double check to make sure the video is turned off.
And the audio. And the audio.
Oh, right. I hadn't thought about
And
that.
the audio. Gotta turn both of them off.
That is an excellent point. Just make sure it's all muted, kids. That's this generation's folksy wisdom that we will pass on to our grandchildren. Atheists, this is the world that you want. So you have to live with it. You guys made this bed, so to speak. You have to lie in it too. I had more on this. Oh, no, there is more. There is more. Okay, look. I realize there is, at some time limit, I have to stop talking about this. I'd put it at like 30, 35 hours.
That's about right.
Yeah. Okay, so BuzzFeed jumps in. Last take. And then, you know what? Oh, I'm going to come across as a really sexually troubled person on this episode because of what we're going into next. Look, I'm fine. I'm fine, sort of, you know. I'm fine. I don't know what's happening with this episode, and I just apologize for it. I just apologize for the whole thing. BuzzFeed headline: Jeffrey Toobin can't be the only person masturbating on work Zoom calls. That's BuzzFeed.
Gosh.
So we all had different takes when we heard this subject. You know what? You heard my take. Different people had different, you know, Shady was like, you were like, how or why? Or, I mean, well, you know how, but why? Or,
So
you know.
how do you not even check your camera?
You're like, how hot is the New Yorker staff? Like, you know. But BuzzFeed, they're like, aren't we all doing it? Aren't we all doing it? So that's
like,
going to become a new thing anytime. Well, what if you're in a Zoom call at work and you have to mute audio and video for good reason? You know, your toddler runs in and they're just wearing a diaper and you're like, this is so unprofessional. I just want to, you know, just mute or whatever. Like maybe you spill something and you're like, oh, I've got coffee on, darn it. And people hear, you know, they hear something going on, but the video's muted. It's like,
what are they
well,
doing?
now they're all going to think it's like sex fest going on. You know, he's ruined this for us. But that's BuzzFeed really is they're like the town crier. They're like the troubadour of modern culture. You can count on them to perfectly articulate everything that is wrong with Western culture. And so, of course, they're jumping in with the, yeah, aren't we all take. Another thing that we see here, while I'm going off on secular sexual morality, is you know how there's this idea that if you don't give in to any sexual temptation, that you'll shrivel up and die. It's why people make fun of celibate religious life, like our nuns and our monks and our priests. Like people just can't imagine that someone might be able to give up sex, because we live in a culture that says if you have any sexual urge, you have to act on it immediately. So I say again, this is what my atheist father taught me to do. If you say that something is true, I believe this, I value this ideal, I subscribe to this tenet, then you need to be honest about what all the logical conclusions of that are. And so if you say that it's really bad and damaging for people to not be able to express whatever sexual urge, then again, you don't complain when 10 years from now, the bricks on your Zoom call, everyone's got it out. And it's like not even a problem anymore. And it's just what we do at work on Zoom calls. That's your worldview. You have to admit that you made that bed. You're lying in a bed that you made with your worldview that says it's dangerous and harmful always to suppress any kind of sexual expression. And in the world of pedophilia or people who are into teenage, just that whole world of pervs, they use that same logic. Like, well, it's just, it's just not healthy for me to not express this. And then other examples that play out that people don't think about. So you have this worldview that says you'll shrivel up and die if you're not getting your freak on 24/7 in whatever way you most want to do that. Now, imagine if you're married and let's say your spouse has a grave illness. Let's say your spouse has a degenerative condition where they are no longer able to perform sexually. They have a serious degenerative disease, or they have cancer, or they're going through chemo. Well, think about what that does to a marriage and think about how that makes your spouse feel. If everyone has bought into this worldview that the healthy spouse will just, their life is meaningless if they can't express themselves in the way that they feel like doing 24/7. That and again, we see this perfectly in the BuzzFeed reaction. Like, yeah, aren't we? It's just like, it's been 10 minutes. Right. Yeah, right. Like, I think, obviously that would be unhealthy.
I'm bored, okay?
Right. Yeah. Like, but what else am I going to do with my time? Christianity says find something better to do with your time and realize that sacrifice is what real love is built on, and even what self-love is built on. Like, self-love is an important thing, valuing yourself, loving yourself. And so we associate loving yourself with just pleasuring yourself 24/7. But think about that. So that means you just like masturbate and get drunk all the time. Does that and that's like what everyone does now, especially in quarantine. I mean, it is like, that's the default lifestyle. It's self-care. It leads to a horrible trash existence. And Christianity says, cut it out, and you'll be a lot happier. Why don't you think about other people? Why don't you go out and try to, let me rephrase this. When you come to the realization that not only will you be just fine if you avoid some pleasure and say, okay, you know what, instead of whipping it out on the Zoom call, I'll actually keep it in my pants. And I'll focus on the other people on this call. Like, maybe this person, I just noticed, now that I'm not thinking about myself for a second, I just noticed this guy in the third square over here, it seems like he's a little sad today. Maybe I could follow up with him and send him a text. Like, not that kind of text, like, just send him a text.
Hey.
Like, hey man, I just noticed you seem a little down. Are you okay? Maybe this woman says something that I could jump in and be like, hey, wow, that's a really cool idea. That's really exciting. It's so exciting. Okay, I'll stop with the joke.
No.
I'm trying to make a serious point that when you're focused on your own pleasure, you are not in the mode of blessing other people because you're not noticing other people. They don't exist to you. You just want what C.S. Lewis would call your little imaginary harem of people who bring you pleasure. And you're not noticing the real people around you who might actually need some blessings from you. All right, and I could talk about this more. I hate to deprive you of the shower of hot takes, just the avalanche of hot takes that I have on this subject. But we need to move on. And I say again, I am going to come across as a deeply troubled person on this episode because I did not mean for these subjects to line up this way. So that is the end of the Gensplaining segment out here. And okay, scat. And that was Gensplaining.
Yeah.
This is the worst show.
That's my own.
Okay, so we ended that nice little bookend imaging there for the segment. Okay. my stand-up comedy special comes out November 17th. This was a bad segue because people are like, yeah, I'm going to avoid that for sure. If this is where her sense of humor is, yeah, I'll watch anything but that. It comes out November 17th. It will be available on the iTunes, their comedy store. It will be available on Amazon Prime. Really, really exciting release. November 17th. Now, this is a really cool deal because I was saying on Instagram, follow me there if you don't already follow me on Instagram. Jennifer Fulweiler is my handle there. No, I didn't say that. I said, whatever. I said it somewhere. The point is, set on my email list. Sign up for my email list. Never mind. Scrap Instagram. I think it's jensemailfriends.com. You know what? Here, I'll look this up. Jen's email friends. Because I'll send you to some, it'll turn out to be like something really crazy if I don't check this. No, it's not. It's not that URL. jfemaillist.com. There you go. That's where I said. I always tell my email list. Like I always give them a little bit behind the scenes stuff. jfemaillist.com is where you hear this kind of fine content. So I was saying that the record label I'm working with it's a big comedy record label, 800-Pound Gorilla. You can look up their website. They work with the top names in comedy. And so the fact that someone who has my worldview, which you just heard more than you ever wanted to hear, more than you ever wanted to know about my worldview, you just heard Catholic, atheist to Catholic convert, 6 kids. I mean, there is no one bringing this perspective to comedy, especially not women. I mean, there's Gaffigan, but when you go into female comics, very, very few of them do comedy that is clean-ish. Not saying it's like perfect for the church group, but not dropping F-bombs, not going into, not doing what I just did on this podcast. It's a little more family-friendly than that, most of it. And no one's bringing that perspective to stand-up comedy. And this really interesting woman, Nora, oddly enough, I ran into her at the airport. She recognized me at the airport when we started talking. And she made this really interesting point that in every time and place in history, there is an art form that most captivates the public's attention. So if you go back in certain times of Europe, it was opera. That's just the art form more than anything else that people are interested in, they listen to. It kind of shapes how they see the world. And she said, in this day and age, it's stand-up comedy. And when you think about it, our comedians shape the way the average American sees the world, frankly, probably more than some of our politicians. I mean, Dave Chappelle, like a lot of, well, and even Gaffigan. I remember he was first coming up when I was relatively recently converted to Catholicism. And just the fact that he was also Catholic and he had a big family, it really shaped the way I saw myself and my culture. Stand-up comedians have enormous influence because this is the art form that has most captured the modern, at least West's, attention. Now, that's why it matters, and I find it very significant that there are very few people in mainstream comedy who are bringing this worldview. Because let's face it, even when you're kidding, and even when your only goal is just to be funny and do good comedy, the way you see the world and what you think is good and true, it seeps into that, even if you're telling silly stories. And so if we have a generation of people who are seeking entertainment from stand-up comedy, but they're only hearing from people who are atheists, who are masturbating on Zoom calls, who are, have kind of an anti-family worldview, well, even if they're not out there preaching and trying to convert people to their way of seeing things, it's going to seep in. It is going to have an influence on the way people see the world. So I was saying on my email list, since I worked so hard looking that up, what is it? What did I say it was? jfemaillist.com. Okay, please go subscribe to that because I logged into my domain registrar to find this, jfemaillist.com. I was telling my email list. That's why I find the release of this special significant, because I'm working with a major comedy record label. And they're putting it on, like, Amazon Prime. And look, it's good comedy. I tested it out at clubs where no one has heard of me. Like Shady saw that. I mean, I slogged it out. Did I not? Like Shady was there sometimes when I would go up on stage and I would bomb. And then I imagine this. Okay, so first of all, imagine going up on a stand-up comedy stage. You're telling jokes and people are just, this is their reaction. They're like, and you're like trying to make people laugh. I mean, it's the worst. It is the worst thing ever. And then, so here's what I would do. I would video it, and then I would sit down with other people, and I would watch the video. Imagine, people don't like to hear themselves. They don't like to see themselves. Imagine not just watching a full body video of yourself under very unflattering lights, but watching yourself bomb a stand-up comedy set. I would, Shady saw this. I would do it every time.
Too.
And I did garage comedy where I would gather Shady and some of the kids and neighbors and different people. And I would say, okay, why isn't this good? Why didn't you guys laugh? How can we improve this? This is good comedy. And I can say that because I slogged it out to get there. And I actually have a spreadsheet that shows like where people laugh and how long are between the laughs. Okay. So the point is it's good comedy. But it has this worldview of someone who converted to Catholicism from atheism and has 6 kids and thinks family is a good thing and is happy to have a family, doesn't see that as a drag on my life. This example from a woman pretty much does not exist in stand-up comedy. And so that is why I find the release of this special to be significant. Because we don't have a voice like this in the marketplace of ideas. And again, it's good. I'm not asking for pity, like buy the special because I'm doing the right thing. You're going to like the special. But I really want to get it out there because I want us out there. If you are still listening to this podcast, boy, do we see the world the same way. You and I are simpatico. So I can very comfortably at this point in the historic episode 42 that YouTube is like, that's not a family-friendly channel, so we're deleting the whole thing now. At this point in this episode, I can definitely assume that you and I share the same worldview. And this stand-up comedy special that comes out November 17th, it's like a debutante ball. It introduces us to the wider culture. Because right now, you look at Amazon Prime comedy special, there's this worldview from a woman is simply not represented. So all that is to say, I need to do a good job with the launch. I'm like, okay, how do we get it out there? I'm working with my comedy record label. I've met with those guys in Nashville. They're amazing. I love them. Oh, an interesting aside, when they were talking to SiriusXM, who interestingly, I don't even think they knew I was a host, just totally independently. SiriusXM was interested in picking this up for their comedy channels. And I had said to them, I said, in terms of what we release, some of my jokes are very niche Catholic. Like I have a joke about relics, and that even Catholics who are watching this are like, what's a relic again? It's a very obscure Catholic belief, and I have a joke about it. So I went to 800 Pound Gorilla and SiriusXM, and I said, if you guys want to cut that, and I have some jokes about Lent, I understand that might be too much and too narrow. And there's this idea that the mainstream entertainment industry is always categorically against any kind of traditional Christian stuff. They actually encouraged me to keep it. 800 Pound Gorilla was like, those are some of our favorite jokes. We love the Catholic part. Absolutely leave it in. So if it were up to me, I would have cut the Catholic material. It was my mainstream comedy record label that was like, we think those jokes are really solid. We think people will like them a lot. Keep them in. So this is interesting times. Yeah. And it's not just general, I'm Catholic jokes. I mean, relics. There's a relic joke. And honestly, it gets like probably the biggest laugh of the whole set. So this is very interesting, this whole release. Now, the problem is I called my tour that it is based on, and then this is what we're naming the special, The Naughty Corner. Now, Shady, are you familiar with the term naughty corner?
Yeah.
See, okay, all these people are not familiar with it. They're all not familiar with this term, naughty corner. And so I had to learn the hard way that everyone was like, it sounds like a strip club. It's the corner that you put a kid in when they misbehave. What do you guys call it? You guys who evidently have never heard the word naughty corner, you've never heard the term naughty corner. You can't imagine what that would be other than like some sex place. Like what do you call the place that you send kids? What they call it? Time out?
Probably. I don't like
Well, that would be a boring name for a tour.
Naughty.
Time out. Yeah. Yes. With the British accent, say naughty corner in that.
Naughty corner.
There you go. A Cockney accent at that. I like it. So I called it the naughty corner because it's like, it was this double meaning that was like you send kids to the naughty corner. And then, some of the jokes were a little, I mean, it's not filthy or anything. It's just, some of the jokes were PG-13. So, and I have some people who follow me who really don't like me. And I'm a hate follow for some people. And so they just trash everything I do. And so I was thinking like some of these jokes will get me in the timeout corner. That's preferable. So I called it the Naughty Corner Tour. I have everyone telling me it sounds like the name of a strip club. So now I need to get a domain. And here's where I need everyone's help. So Shady, I want you and the listeners to this fine program. Oh, you know what? Actually, I have while I was pulling up jfemaillist.com, I have my domain registrar right here. So we will look. I'll actually register this right now. Now, okay, it's called the Naughty Corner Stand-Up Comedy Special. Let's just type in naughtycorner.com. Naughty Corner. I have naughtycornertour.com, and some people would type in. Oh, here's another funny story. Wait, is that available? Some of the theaters where, I self-produced my own tour, and I'd never done this before. I mean, I cold called these theaters. I just used my personal credit card to book venues. And I personally filled out all the forms for ticketing so that they could sell tickets. But one of the sections I missed is what to put on people's credit card statements. So people were getting credit card bills that would be like Naughty Corner, $35.99. And I had all of these issues with spouses rejecting the charges.
Oh, no.
Because what did you spend at the Naughty Corner? Okay, so if you look, naughtycorner.com is actually available.
Wow.
Or at least there's not some nasty website there. Now, if you do, don't do an image search on Naughty Corner. Because some women who are in a different, some would say more respectable line of work than I am, they have domains related to the Naughty Corner concept. So, Shady, should I call it Naughty Corner Special, Naughty Corner Comedy? I have naughtycornertour.com. You can see the tour dates we did. What Naughty Corner? Well, I wonder, hang on. Can I actually get naughtycorner.com? It's going to charge me like $1,000, I'm sure. Like someone has it. They're just not using it. There's no way. $1,000. Okay. Not spending $1,000 on that. So Naughty Corner, Naughty Corner. Okay, so I thought about Jen's Naughty Corner, but that's only going to add fuel to the fire of the haters. I just feel like that's too much.
Is that bad though? Do we really is that bad?
I like the way. Now let's see if, Jen's Naughty Corner. Can I do Jen's Naughty? That sounds so bad.
Yeah, it does.
It sounds so bad. Okay, it is available though. There is that. Naughty Corner. Naughty Corner Special. That kind of sounds bad
weird too. Yeah. You want the Naughty Corner Special? Oh no.
Okay, it's available. Naughty Corner Special.
So do we do Jen's Naughty Corner?
Stand up Naughty Corner. Also, everything has. I told you I was going to come across as a sexually deviant person in this episode. I'm not sexually deviant. Everyone else is sexually deviant. That's why we
need to get our minds out of the gutter.
JensNaughtyCorner.org.
I like .org. I like .org.
I'm literally doing it. Jen's Naughty Corner. .org. Add to cart. I'm literally adding this to cart. And I like it's like this is a humanitarian mission.
Very, very
Jen's Naughty Corner.org. Oh, that's amazing. That's added to cart. Not Jen. Okay, Naughty Corner. I was planning on doing Naughty Corner special, but now you guys are in my head with this. No, okay. Well, Shady and I will take this offline. I feel like everyone is they're exhausted. They can't take any more of this program. I think it will be naughtycornerspecial.com. But listen, get on my email list, jfemaillist.com. Get on my email list so that you can keep up with the special release, because not only is this just a really funny hour of stand-up comedy, but again, there is not another voice bringing our perspective into this particular marketplace of ideas. This is a big moment that a mainstream comedy record label picked up this album. And by the way, it was produced by Spirit Juice. Those guys are tremendous, finest team of people. They're so unbelievable. Hire them for everything. And not just video, just like anything in your life, hire these guys. So this is a really big thing that this is coming out. And so I can't wait to share it with you guys and get on my email list so that you'll be kept abreast of all of the developments, and put November 17th on your calendar. I am also open to suggestions for what we should do on the 17th to celebrate. Should we do a watch party? Ooh. What should we do? And you won't believe how professional this looks. I mean, Spirit Juice blew it out. They blew it out. So let me give you this data point. Netflix, when they film a special, they use 3 cameras. Spirit Juice used 8 cameras. This is an 8-camera, 4K, high-def shoot. To be honest, it is a higher quality, in terms of the film, it is a higher quality special than a Netflix special, which is why it's not on Netflix, because they were like, Jen, let us give you millions of dollars. And I was like, what? No, your platform is not good enough for me. You guys don't make the cut for me. So Amazon Prime is the way to go. That's where it will be. November 17th, mark your calendars. jfemaillist.com is where you sign up for my email list. And don't forget that we are doing bonus episodes on Patreon. And that's where I go into, again, a little bit more intimate territory, the kind of stuff that don't want out there on Google. I kind of, tell people the behind the scenes things that are going on, things that are working in my life, and things that are really not working in my life. The new episode I've gone into, it's out now, my story with alcohol, my very complicated relationship with the substance. And when you join the Patreon, you have episodes to all of the archives. And so if you join, be sure to look up episode 1, the very first Patreon episode, where I gave all the behind the scenes dirt on this absolute fiasco that played out on the day I filmed the special. I named names. I dished all the dirt. It was a really fun episode number 1. So you get all of those archives and everything when you join the Patreon, patreon.com/thisisjen. Shady, what a triumph.
Love it.
What an episode this was. It was one for the ages. By the way, some people have thought that Shady is a nickname. And some of them have corresponded with Chapel, who
Yeah.
and she handles my email and stuff. So they're like, Shady. They think it's Chapel using a different name. Her actual name is Shady, but she might be changing it after this episode. She'll be Hildegard from now, because she won't want to be publicly associated with anything having to do with this program.
I quit.
All right. Thank you guys so much. Patreon.com/thisisjen. And I will be back with you soon. Up next, we have episode 43 coming out next week.